welcome to a deep dive that just might kind of, reshape how you think about the future.
Oh, yeah.
Today, we're tackling posthumanity.
That's right.
Not like the sci-fi movie version,
Right.
but a deeply philosophical take on what it means to be human and what we might become.
Absolutely. It's a fascinating topic.
Yeah.
It really is. And our guide today is Nick Bostrom.
Hi.
And his paper, Why I Want to Be a Posthuman When I Grow Up.
Okay.
But our goal here isn't to convince you of anything.
Right.
But to kind of unpack Bostrom's thinking.
Right.
So you can decide what you think about this posthuman future.
Okay, so first things first.
Sure.
When Bostrom says posthuman,
Yeah.
what does he actually mean?
He's very specific. It's not about looking different.
Okay.
It's about capacity.
Okay.
A posthuman is any being with at least one ability far exceeding any human alive today.
So someone who could run a 4-minute mile wouldn't count?
Right.
But someone who can teleport would?
Exactly. And Bostrom really hones in on 3 capacities in particular.
Okay.
Health span, cognition, and emotion. Think about it. What if your health span wasn't limited by aging as we know it?
Right.
You could live for centuries, not just years.
Wow.
With full vitality of mind and body.
Living to 150 and still feeling like you're in your prime?
Right.
That's a pretty wild thought. But what about cognition?
Right.
Does this mean everyone becomes a super genius?
Think of it less like super genius
and
more like amplified potential.
Okay.
We're talking memory, reasoning, problem solving, creativity, all enhanced to a degree we can barely fathom. What scientific breakthroughs could we achieve?
Right.
What art could we create with such expanded minds?
Okay, I'll admit, that part is pretty tempting.
Yeah.
But enhanced emotions, doesn't that sound a little scary?
Yeah.
Like, would we all just be blissed out zombies?
Okay, sure.
Or something?
Not at all. Bostrom isn't talking about eliminating negative emotions or forcing constant happiness.
Okay.
It's more about deepening the entire spectrum of human experience.
I see.
Imagine feeling joy and empathy with an intensity we can't currently access.
Right.
While also having the wisdom to regulate negative emotions more effectively.
So not erasing the bad.
Right.
But enriching the good.
Exactly.
That makes more sense.
Yeah.
But why does Bostrom think
this
posthuman state is something worth striving for?
He makes this compelling argument that we already act, as if these enhanced capacities are highly valuable. Think about the immense resources we pour into healthcare, even if it only extends our lives by a few years.
And what about all those brain training apps?
Right, exactly.
And self-help books. It's like we're constantly trying to improve ourselves, even if it's just a tiny bit.
Exactly. Even our deep-seated fear of death suggests a desire for more life, more experience. Bostrom uses this powerful analogy to illustrate this. Imagine a tribe living in a valley, convinced their little world holds everything of value.
But what if they climbed to the top of the mountains and saw a whole universe they never knew existed?
Precisely. He argues that clinging to our current limitations might be like that tribe staying in the valley.
Yeah.
We could be missing out on immense value simply because we haven't expanded our understanding of what's possible.
That's a powerful image.
Yeah.
But here's where things get really tricky for me.
Sure.
If you radically change your abilities, your lifespan, even your emotional range, are you still fundamentally you?
Right.
It's like if a caterpillar turns into a butterfly.
Okay.
Is it still the same creature?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
The heart of the identity problem.
Right.
But Bostrom argues that personal identity isn't about staying exactly the same. It's about continuity of self despite change. Okay.
We already go through massive transformations in our lives.
Right.
Think about how different you are now compared to when you were 5 years old.
It's true. I definitely wouldn't want to go back to being a 5-year-old.
Right.
But I still feel connected to that younger version of myself.
And that's Bostrom's point.
Okay.
We can change dramatically and still retain a core humus piece.
Right.
Even some religious beliefs, like reincarnation, hinge on the idea of a self
Yeah.
that persists despite radical transformation.
So the question isn't whether you'd change it all,
Right.
but which aspects of yourself you'd consider
Right.
essential to preserve, even with these radical enhancements.
That's something for each of us to consider.
Right.
But before we get too deep into existential pondering,
Okay.
Bostrom also tackles some common objections
Okay.
to the whole idea of posthumanity.
I bet one of those is the whole playing God argument.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, isn't messing with human nature somehow wrong or dangerous?
He addresses that head on, pointing out that the concept of human nature is a slippery one.
Right.
What's truly natural about us.
Right.
We've been using technology to shape our lives.
It's true. If we were truly meant to stick to nature,
Right.
we'd still be living in caves.
He reminds us that throughout history, people have resisted progress in the name of preserving some imagined natural order.
Right.
Imagine if we'd listened to those who feared the printing press or the telephone.
Good point.
Yeah.
But Bostrom doesn't just brush aside these concerns, does he?
No, he carefully unpacks them.
Okay.
He challenges the assumption that our current way of life is somehow ideal or the only way to thrive.
Okay.
Human history is full of diverse cultures,
Right.
with different values and ways of flourishing.
So maybe what we consider human nature is just a snapshot in time,
Yeah.
not some fixed, unchanging essence.
Exactly.
But let's be real, the idea of becoming post-human still feels a little unsettling to me.
That's understandable.
It challenges our fundamental assumptions about who we are and what's possible.
Yeah.
But Bostrom's point isn't to eliminate those anxieties,
Okay.
but to encourage us to examine them, to have an open and honest conversation about what a post-human future might hold.
And that brings us to another fascinating aspect of Bostrom's argument.
Okay. He argues that the value of these enhanced capacities doesn't really hinge on how you achieve them.
Yeah.
It's like good health.
Right.
We don't say someone's health is less valuable because they were born with a strong immune system
Right.
versus someone who had to overcome a serious illness.
That's a really interesting point.
Yeah.
We value the outcome, not necessarily the journey to get there.
Right.
But how does Bostrom apply this to posthumanity?
He uses this thought-provoking analogy.
Yeah.
Imagine two Olympic athletes who both win gold medals.
Okay.
One dedicated their life to training, pushing their physical limits to the absolute max.
Right.
The other took a performance-enhancing drug to get there.
So in one case, we admire the dedication and effort, while in the other, it feels like cheating.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Bostrom then asks, is the value of being healthy somehow diminished if you achieved it through natural means
Right.
versus medical intervention?
That's a good way to put it. We don't usually devalue someone's health just because they didn't have to struggle for it.
Precisely.
Right.
He suggests the same logic could apply to post-human capacities.
Okay.
Their value might lie in what they allow us to be and do,
Right.
not necessarily in the method by which we acquire them.
Right.
Of course, he's not advocating for any unethical shortcuts.
So he's not saying let's all just pop a pill and become superhuman.
Right, exactly.
He's exploring the potential value of these enhancements,
Exactly.
assuming they can be attained ethically.
Exactly. He distinguishes between Faustian means, which involve moral compromise,
Okay.
and non-Faustian means, which
Yeah.
are ethically sound.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
He's not interested in a post-human society built on exploitation
Right.
or sacrificing our core values.
And this ties back to that bigger question we touched on earlier.
Right.
What kind of future do we want?
Yeah.
A post-human future could be incredible,
Yeah.
but it's not guaranteed to be a utopia.
Right. It's not like becoming post-human magically solves all our problems.
Right.
We could still face conflict, inequality,
Right.
even existential threats.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why Bostrom emphasizes the importance of thinking critically about the implications of posthumanity,
Right.
both positive and negative. One common concern is that posthumans might become so advanced.
Right.
They lose touch with their humanity, becoming indifferent to us mere mortals.
It's like that classic sci-fi trope, the super intelligent AI that sees humans as ants.
Right. But Bostrom argues there's no reason to assume greater intelligence or enhanced capacities would automatically lead to a lack of empathy or compassion.
So instead of becoming cold, calculating machines,
Right.
post-humans could potentially be even more understanding and compassionate.
That's one possibility he explores. He argues that if qualities like knowledge, creativity, and love are intrinsically rewarding within the human range, why assume their value would vanish beyond that range?
Okay.
Maybe they'd become even more profound.
That's a hopeful thought.
Yeah.
But I imagine some people might hear all of this and think, this is just science fiction, right? Fun to think about, but ultimately unrealistic.
Skepticism is healthy,
Right.
especially when dealing with such paradigm-shifting ideas.
Mhm.
But I'd remind those skeptics that what was once considered impossible has often become commonplace.
Right.
Think about the idea of humans flying
Right.
or communicating instantly across continents.
Good point.
Those were once considered crazy ideas, too.
Yeah, it's easy to get stuck in our current understanding of what's possible
Right.
and dismiss anything that challenges those boundaries.
So while caution is important,
Yeah.
we shouldn't shut down the conversation simply because it feels unfamiliar
Well,
or even a bit scary. What's important is to approach these ideas with both critical thinking
right.
and a sense of open-mindedness.
I like that, the balance of, okay, let's think this through carefully,
Yeah,
but also, wow, what if this could actually happen?
exactly.
Yeah.
This deep dive is all about expanding our horizons and challenging our assumptions.
Right.
It's about asking ourselves, what kind of future do we want?
Right.
And what role, if any, does post-humanity play in that future?
This whole conversation has definitely given me a lot to think about.
Yeah.
It's both exciting and a little daunting to contemplate a future
Sure.
where humans have such vastly expanded capabilities.
It's a future brimming with possibilities,
Yeah.
but it's one that requires careful consideration and thoughtful choices.
Right.
And this leads us to the heart of Bostrom's argument.
Good.
He's saying that becoming post-human could be immensely good,
Okay.
but he's not making guarantees.
Right.
He's offering us an invitation to imagine, to explore, to consider what might be possible.
I love that, not a prediction, but an invitation.
He leaves us with a question that I hope will resonate long after this deep dive. What kind of future do you want to see?
Right.
And what role, if any, does post-humanity play in it?
That's a question worth pondering.
It is.
It reminds us that the future isn't something that just happens to us.
Right.
It's something we create.
We create it through our choices, our actions, our innovations.
Right.
And yes, even through our imaginations.
Maybe, just maybe, someday what we now consider post-human will simply be human.
It's a fascinating thought.
This deep dive has only scratched the surface of this complex and fascinating topic.
It really has.
It's definitely sparked my curiosity.
Good.
I am sure our listeners feeling the same way.
And as we navigate this uncharted territory,
Right.
it's important to remember that the future is not something to be feared,
Right.
but it's something to be shaped.
So keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep. It's kind of fascinating to think about what everyday life might look like in a post-human society.
Yeah, for sure.
Would we still have things like work and leisure? Or would, our entire concept of time and purpose be transformed?
That's a question that really sparks the imagination.
Yeah.
Bostrom touches on this, acknowledging that our current ways of life,
Right.
our values, even our commitments, might need to adapt as we evolve.
So it's not just about individual change,
Right.
but about societal evolution as well.
Precisely.
Yeah.
He argues that these changes wouldn't necessarily invalidate our existing commitments,
Right.
but rather offer opportunities to reevaluate
Right.
and perhaps deepen them.
I can see that.
Yeah.
For example, if we had vastly extended lifespans,
Right.
the way we approach relationships, careers, even the concept of retirement would likely need a shift.
Exactly. It would be a chance to rethink our priorities and explore new ways of living and connecting with others.
But, let's face it,
Sure.
even with those exciting possibilities, there are some potential downsides to this whole post-human scenario that are hard to ignore.
Yeah, it's important to acknowledge those concerns.
Right.
One of the biggest, and one that Bostrom addresses directly, is the potential for increased inequality.
Right. If these enhancements are expensive or only available to a select few, it's easy to imagine a future
Sure.
where the gap between the haves and the have-nots becomes even wider.
It's a valid concern.
Yeah.
And Bostrom doesn't offer any easy solutions.
Right.
But he suggests that one way to mitigate this potential inequality is to ensure that these enhancements are
Right.
widely accessible.
So kind of like how we strive for universal access to healthcare and education.
That's the idea.
Okay.
He proposes that perhaps these enhancements could be made available through public funding.
Right.
Or some form of universal basic enhancement, ensuring that they benefit all of humanity,
Right.
not just a privileged few.
I like that. It's a reminder that post-humanity isn't just about individual transformation,
Right.
but also about societal evolution, about creating a more equitable world for everyone.
It's a crucial point. It's easy to get caught up in the individualistic aspects of posthumanity,
Right.
the longer lifespan, the enhanced abilities.
Yeah.
But we need to consider the collective implications. How will these changes affect our relationships, our communities, our planet?
It raises the question,
Ah.
what's the point of all this incredible potential if we end up creating a dystopian future
Right.
where only a select few get to enjoy it?
We need to be mindful of the potential for unintended consequences.
Right.
Just like any powerful technology, these enhancements could be used for good or for ill.
It all comes back to the choices we make.
It does.
Both individually and collectively, we need to be intentional about the kind of future we want to create
Yeah.
and make sure these advancements are used ethically and responsibly.
And that brings us to another crucial point.
Okay.
The importance of dialogue and open debate. We need to engage in honest conversations about the implications of posthumanity,
Right.
involving diverse perspectives and voices.
It can't just be a conversation among philosophers and scientists.
Right.
We need everyone at the table because this is a future that will impact us all.
Absolutely. This is a conversation that needs to happen in our homes, our schools, our communities, and in the public sphere. We need to grapple with the ethical questions,
Right.
weigh the potential benefits and risks, and consider the societal implications of this transformative technology.
Well, this deep dive has given me, and hopefully you too, a lot to think about.
Me too.
It's both exciting and a bit daunting to contemplate a future where humans have such vastly expanded capabilities.
It's a future filled with possibilities,
Yeah.
but it also demands careful consideration and wise choices.
As we venture into this uncharted territory, it's important to remember that the future isn't something that just happens to us.
Right.
It's something we create.
And that's what makes this whole conversation so fascinating and ultimately so empowering.
So keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.